The key to having a successful government contracting business is being data-driven and following the money. This way, you can build strategic positioning in the market by understanding how to price your contracts, how to get intel on your competition, and how to develop deep relationship with agencies and also with primes and subcontracting companies. So how do you do that? That's what we're going to focus on today. What we are going to cover today is how to use USASpending.gov for strategic market research for your business. And I want to show you how a successful government contracting business actually runs. Now, if your flow right now involves going on SAM.gov and finding solicitations, then you are missing a lot of steps that successful government contracting businesses do. So let's get into it. First, what is USASpending.gov? I don't want to take too long on this. It's the official open data source for all federal government contracting spending. So if you want to see how the government is spending the $6.8 trillion in taxpayer money every single year, then that's the website you want to be headed to. And it's a free tool that offers sophisticated market research, and it's actually much better than SAM.gov in terms of UI and user friendliness. So once you get an understanding of how to use it, it should be easy and it should be a kind of important component of your government contracting process. Our goal today is to cover 4 main reasons to use USASpending.gov for your business. And that's 1, who are my target agencies as a business? So you want to identify which federal departments allocate budget to your specific product or service you're selling. The second question we want to use USASpending.gov for is, who are my competitors and potential partners? I want to see the competitive landscape, what contracts they're winning, and if there's potential strategic alignment on a specific opportunity. Third, we want to cover how should I price my services, and that's a very important component of USASpending.gov, is it lets you get a strategic advantage by knowing how much you should price your bid to actually be competitive and potentially win. And lastly, we want to cover where are the best subcontracting opportunities. We want to identify prime contractors who need our expertise as a subcontractor. So to start with the first one, we want to find the agencies that spend on what we sell. The first part is we want to find who's actually buying our product, who's actually buying our service. And you might think, the government. The government is huge, and each kind of agency, they have departments, and each department has sub-departments. So it's very important to know who are our high-value targets within the government, which specific agencies spend the most or in our specific offering. And then we want to filter by our specific industry, or so the services we provide, and we want to optimize our marketing and positioning based on these specific criteria. So which agencies, where they are, how we should be visible to them, and how should we position ourselves as a potential target so they could spend on us as well. So how do we do this? That's where USASpending.gov comes in. So the website looks something like this. It's actually very friendly. What you want to click on Start Searching Words. Now, here, that's where we actually want to find out which agencies are spending on our specific industry. So first, I would like to see spending for recent years. I don't want to go back to 2001. I want specifically for 2025, 24, 23, 22, and 21. That for me gives me a good data point because it's not too old, and also it's recent and relevant to our time right now. The second thing I like to go over is if your service is location specific, then here you want to specify a specific location. So in my case, I just care about if it has to be in the United States. But if you only operate in a specific state or county or city, then make sure to specify that as well. Now, the second thing that we want to filter on, which is the NAICS code. If you're not familiar with NAICS code, I have a lot of videos on that. Make sure to get yourself familiar. But if you want to find your NAICS code, then you can just come to samsearch.co. There's a free AI lookup for NAICS code. I search for computer programming, and this is the one I got, 541511. So that's my NAICS code in computer programming services. That's what my business focuses on. So you want to find the relevant code for your specific business. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to paste that in. You can see it. You want to just check this box. The second thing we want is to also get the type of set aside. So I don't want to look for data for all set asides. I'm a small business So I want to filter for small business set aside. And if you are 8A or women-owned business, Indian-owned business, or minority-owned business, then you also, or veteran-owned business, you want to filter by your set aside only. So I'm going to filter by small business set aside here and also 8A. Now, one more thing we want to filter by is the award type. We want to only look for contracts. We don't want to see grants, loans, or direct payments. What we want is contracts. So that's the award type that we are going after. Also, what we could do is we could see that what is the type of the business that's winning the government contract. So is it a business? Is it a small business? Is it a corporate entity tax exempt? So what I want to do is I want to filter for small business, but feel free to filter whichever one aligns with your business. So minority-owned business, women-owned business, veteran-owned business. It's important so we're only seeing the ones that are recipients that are similar to our business. Now, once we're done with these filters, we can also choose the product or service code. That's more detailed than the NAICS code, but I think for now, I'll just stick with what I have, and we're going to click on submit at the bottom. And as you can see, we can see here our filters. So the time period, the award type, recipient type, NAICS code, type of set aside. And to see which agency is awarding a lot in your space, you can scroll all the way to here. And as you can see here, you have a chart. You can change that view to a table. So if it's easier for you to read like this, you can see that the DoD, the Department of Defense, they spent $3 billion over these past 5 years on computer programming services to small businesses and that are in the United States. So all my filters, small business with these specific set asides in computer programming services for the past 5 years. And only on contracts, not grants. And you can see here all the different type of agencies that are awarding specifically in this specific NAICS code. Now, this tells me, okay, I maybe should focus on DoD, but that's not enough because the DoD is huge. So what we want to do is we want to click on here and change that to awarding sub-agency. So not only we want to get the full picture of which agency is spending on in this specific niche, we want to see which sub-agency. And it's easier to get in contact with people with sub-agencies because that way you could just find the buyer for that sub-agency. So you can see now the image, the picture kind of changed. We have some departments that fall under the DoD, but then you see this one, for example, is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So this one doesn't fall under the DoD, but they spent a lot of money on computer software programming. So this is a good intel for me. I could go and develop a relationship with this specific agency, with the buyer, reach out to them, introduce my business, see what I can do for them. And also the second thing that's important, when I'm searching on SAM.gov, now I can always keep an eye on these agencies. So for example, let's say I'm searching, I can go and filter by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So I could filter by a sub-agency. They're not a large agency, a small agency. And if I see something relevant to my business, then I can capitalize because one, I know that they spend on my specific niche and a lot. So it's more likely I find a contract relevant to my business. Second, I should have developed a relationship with them because I know that they spend a lot in my space and I can have them on my hit list of agencies that I need to reach out to, or even buyers, small business offices in those agencies. So this way you can go through the data and see which agencies are spending in your specific niche. And that covers the first really important use of USASpending.gov, which is finding agencies that spend on what we sell. Now, once you know that, as I mentioned, you can optimize your marketing, you can optimize your reach out campaigns, you can optimize your search as well because you know that these agencies spend a lot in your space. The second use case for USASpending.gov is you want to research your competitors and partners. So why? We want to understand the competitive landscape. So we want to see who is a market leader, who is emerging, who's winning more contracts as of late. We want to analyze the contract history patterns, including like award frequencies, amounts, and agency relationships. And this way, once you identify your competition, they could also be a potential partner. So not only you're looking at your competition, but you're also looking at ways where with some companies you could actually subcontract or you can work on a specific government contract together. So it's a good way for you to see who's actually a potential successful partner because you know that they've won in the past with the government or the specific agency you're trying to work with. So you could either subcontract with them or you could even pitch them a specific contract to work together if you see that there's alignment. So Also, another thing is sometimes they don't have these big companies, they don't have yours set aside, and there's a specific contract. If you pitch it to them, you could have some sort of a mentor protege opportunities with established contractors. So you could pitch the opportunity as a subcontractor, and you could potentially get your first government contract or really big contract with them because they are established, they have past performances, they have history with that specific agency, and most probably relationships. So it's an easier way for you to get your foot in the door. So I would argue it's even more important to actually be on USASpending.gov and finding these companies. So the same way we search for agencies, what you want to do is you want to scroll to the top, and then you here find Prime Award results. So here you're going to find all the contracts that have been awarded in the past, and you can see here the business name. Now, each one of these businesses, you're seeing the contract, the award description, and how much they've won. So, for example, this one is support services, and this company won it. You could click on them and get more idea about their profile, what they do. You could also look them up on SAM.gov, see what they've won in the past. You could look them up on FPDS.gov as well and see all of their awards in the past. You could also scroll here and get more information about what agencies they work for, the NAICS code they work in, the product service codes, and the sub-agencies that they spend a lot. This one, for example, I see that a lot of their spending, a lot of the contracts they got comes 93% comes from the Department of Energy. So they must have some sort of a relationship in that department. So if I have a contract in that department that I think is a potential good fit for me, I could reach out to them and pitch a potential partnership with them. So it's very important that if you are looking for partners or even intel on competition, then this is a great way to actually find these companies and see, maybe you could learn what they're doing as a competitor, what they're pricing their contracts, and potentially if they're not a competition, you could see, is there a potential for me to work with them, subcontractor with them, or pitch a specific contract to work on with them. Now, another thing that you would want to see for your industry is you want to see how's the pattern of spending over the years. Is it going up? Is it going down? Or is it the same pattern throughout the years? So what I could tell from this one is that over time, the spending is increasing, not by a lot, but it's going up. And I see that always around September time, they spend the most, which makes sense. It's the end of the fiscal year, and they spend most of their spending happens around that time. So it's important that you understand these patterns, and so you could position yourself and know where you should be and at what time. So you want to be at the right time and right place. And also, in some cases, the place of performance is important. In my case, when it comes to software, I don't really care about location as much. So now we covered 2 cases. The third case, which is a really important one, is justifying your pricing with historical data. So when we are looking at the past 5 years, we have a lot of data points where we can use to submit and use as a data point, submit competitive and defensible bid. So if we have to price our contract without a data-driven approach, then we're going to come up with a price that we think is fair. It might be too low, it might be too high. But if you're basing your decision based on historical contract values for things that are similar or in your industry, then you are positioning yourself to provide a really competitive bid because historic data doesn't lie. And if you're not shooting up too high or too low, then you are around the range where you are actually a competitive bid. So this way you're developing a data-driven approach. So how do you do this? The same way we looked at the businesses here, now we want to look at the award description. So we want to see which one of these awards align more with the contract we're trying to price. So let's say, for example, so the NAICS code is broad. It's software development. But if we want to look, for example, at website development, what you could do is you could search here for website development, and now you're only going to see contracts that are within that description. And as you can see, that are closer. So obviously you have to go through these and see which one aligns with the contract you're trying to place a bid on. But this is a very powerful way to know how much should I price my service or how much should I price my product. So you're trying to understand how much that specific agency spent for something similar to what you're trying to bid on. Now, you could also potentially, if the contract you're trying to bid on has an incumbent or they've had it in the past, you could actually filter by that ID and you would be able to see previous awards and how much they were awarded for the same exact way in here in the filters. The fourth and the last one, which we kind of hit on, which is finding subcontracting opportunities. So you want to find your entry into big contracts. That's the objective, especially if you're trying to get into the space. You don't have a lot of past performances. So what we want is we want to target prime contractors. We want to identify large companies with recent major contract awards in our industry who need specialized subcontractors. So you might think, why would a big company need subcontractors? Many reasons. One, they don't have enough staffing. Second is they don't have the certificates that you have. 3, they have to work with a small business as a requirement for the contract. So they are looking for subcontractors to work with them, and the opportunities are a lot and by the dozen. Most prime contractors with awards over $700,000 must maintain a small business subcontracting plans with specific percentage goals. So it's a requirement, and primes are always looking for subcontractors. So you can approach them, reach out to them, and work with them on a potential government contract. So you want to build a strategic relationships. What's the best way to do that is actually look at the winners. We don't want to go through the sale process, reaching out to these companies and trying to get meeting with them and realizing that they're not in a good position to actually win or even place a bid. We want to find winners. And there's no better way to find winners than USASpending.gov. Filter by the parameters that you want for a potential business that you want to work with, as I've shown you, and then you are able to get a list of them. And this way, it's also easy to actually get the information of these businesses. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's say we want to get information about this company. You get their UEI. So that's the UEI. You copy that, and then you go to search certifications.sba.gov, and then you paste the UEI in here. Quick search, and you find them. Now, what's nice about this is now you have the contact person name. You have their email address. You have their website. In some cases, you have their capability statement. They have another website. They list that as well. You could see the certifications that they have, all the NAICS codes that they care about. And then also at the bottom, in some cases, you could find their performance history. This one is not provided here, but that's not an issue because we could see them in USASpending.gov. And you could see also the transactions over the year, how they're doing, which agencies they're working with, which awarding sub-agencies they are working with. So you can get a full idea of the business, their website, their contact person, their email. You get everything you need to actually reach out to them. And from there, you could just develop a relationship, set up meetings, and hopefully work with them on a contract and win it. So now we've covered the 4 use cases for USAspending.gov. If you want me to go more in depth into this subject, I would love to. And I'm also working on a lot of solutions that would make extracting this information a lot easier and faster. But in the meantime, if you are looking to find and win government contracts on the federal, state, local, and education level, and you want an easy way to do government contracting, make sure to get samsearch.co. It's by far the easiest government contracting solution. You'll be able to find contracts, break them down, have a full-on CRM for your business, and generate proposals as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.